Hello everyone! Today I'm not only sweating from the extreme heat wave that's hit the UK, but I'm also sweating in Yu-Gi-Oh! We have an amazing going second deck list which involves kaijus and Luna predominantly, but also danger cards as well. This has been one of my favourite lists to play in recent times, and I've had a lot of success with it. Like even today I got top 3, lovely store credit for me, but if you want to see the list, keep watching. So, starting off with our main deck monsters, we have two Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju. This is another level 8 and obviously a Kaiju. It's the strongest one of the bunch, so it's got 3000 attack, or at least the strongest one we run. We also run two Godala, 2700 attack, level 8 Kaiju, and two Gamisior. Now, the reason we run two of each of these, because I found three to be too much, it gives you just enough for interrupted kaiju slumber, and just enough to the point where you're not drawing like a full hand of kaijus. You only really want to see one or two at most. So having two of each is optimal from my experience. Those are all the kaijus. Now let's introduce the Luna part of the deck, or the Fairy Tale part. We have three Fairy Tale Luna. If you don't know what this card does, when you summon it, you can search an 1850 attack monster, which is the only targets for this are the other Lunas. And its effect is you can basically quick effect, target one monster your opponent controls. They can either send one card with the same name from their deck to negate the effect, but if it resolves, you bounce the Luna and the monster back. So what that means is you can kaiju over a monster, normal summon Luna, bounce both of these back to hand, and then you can kaiju again if you're so inclined. It's really, really powerful in grind game. Not to mention your deck thinning when you summon one, grab another one, and by the end you already have three in hand, which works quite well with the dangers for discard fodder. Another fun play is you can just sit on this and wait for your opponent to do something, but also if your opponent tries to target pop or target negate, you can activate the effect and bounce it. Truly the MVP of the deck, it turns your kaijus from a one use thing that will just leave the field and you'll never see them again to just constant grind game. I had a game today against Pearly where I would just kaiju, Luna, bounce every single turn. The first game lasted about 30 minutes, but we'll ignore that. We also run a 3 Gizmek Orochi. So this is, again, another level 8 that you can special summon. The Banish 8 cost is pretty steep considering we're running 40 cards, but the fact that you can just spam this out, plus if you discard it, it's one of your best discard targets because you can just special it from the grave anyway, and it keeps you alive as well, sometimes for that extra turn. Really good level 8 card, and it's just a generic special summonable body. For similar reasons, we run Alpha, the Master of Beasts. This really helps in your OTK potential, but also just the ability to bounce with this as well. Similar to Luna, you can bounce the kaijus and use them over and over again. And you can actually special summon this more than once per turn. So you could just special summon this, bounce, and then special summon it again if they still have higher attack than you. Really, really powerful card, but you can consider running it at 2, simply because you don't really want to see multiple of these in your hand, but it's a really good card, so I run it at 3. Now for our dangers. We run 3 Danger Bigfoot. Again, special summonable level 8, and the discard effect is useful. If you discard this, you can destroy a set, which is handy, but also, as you've seen, there's a couple of good discard targets like Gizmek, and some of the kaijus you don't really care about, especially if you've already used kaiju that turn. Just a good level 8 body. Speaking of good level 8 bodies, we also have 3 Danger Bigfoot. Now, I should really have 3 of the same because it gives it away if I have 2 in hand, but oh well. Again, Danger Bigfoot, good level 8, special summonable, and the center grave effect to pop one on the field face up is really good as well. Not to mention the draw effects on the dangers can draw you into some of the cards you need to see, especially going second. We take advantage of a lot of these level 8s in the extra deck, but we'll go over that when we get there. Now, for the only monsters that aren't level 8s, other than Luna, we have two Fenrir. Now, you can probably run this at 3, but I found that you want to only really see one of them, and searching another one is a bonus. You don't really want to have two in hand because you want to see your kaijus and dangers. No real explanation for Fenrir, really. It's just an insane card, especially going second. It helps break boards massively. For a similar reason, our last monster is one copy of Eater of Millions. This seems odd because usually people run three or none, but this really helps in clearing boards, especially when you have monsters that get effects when sent to the grave. You can summon this and banish it face down. Not the best on your kaijus, but this this is just such a good card. I couldn't resist running it. You can replace it probably with like a Grenmaju or something, or even like an Ash Blossom, but I love it, and there's a reason it's in this deck. It's so powerful. Moving on to our spells. To start off with, we have the 3 Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Destroy all monsters and special summon a kaiju on each side of the field. This is basically Raigeki with a plus for you, since you can summon a kaiju, and once again you can Luna bounce it to hand, and other fun plays. Just an amazing board wipe, and honestly, this deck really takes advantage of this. So it's basically you're getting yourself a free level 8 as well as clearing their board, which can be amazing. We also run 3 trade-ins. Since we run so many level 8s, trade-ins are pretty much essential. The best target for this is Gizmek, but also the dangers can be really good as well, since they get their discard effect. Just an amazing card in general if you're running a lot of level 8s, so it's a no-brainer to run 3 of these. Plus, you could turn your dead hand into possibly a hand that can actually break your opponent's board, since sometimes you'll see cards you don't want to, so you can just filter them out. We also run 3 Super Polymerization. Now, again, you can get the discard effect off your dangers, and Gizmek is another brilliant target since you can special summon it. I'll show you the targets when we get to the extra deck, but this is just an amazing card. You can't respond to it, it clears boards, it's fantastic. If you really want to be cheeky and use Garura and Muddragon, you can make sure you special a kaiju on their field where they have the same attribute, and then you can use that as well. Then we run 2 Pot of Desires. This is just great for draw power, and you don't really care what you banish. There's no key combo piece. The only terrible outcome is if you banish 2 of both your kaiju. So if you banish 4 kaijus, then you can't use your kaiju slumber. But if you're going to use this, make sure you don't need to rely on the kaiju slumber. Now into our one-offs, we run 1 Triple Tactics Talent. We only run 1, and in fact you could probably cut this, since there's not many hand traps that you really care about. Droll is not so painful, you don't need to add much to be effective. Ash barely does anything, maybe on the Kaiju Slumber it's painful. And others like Dimension Shifter, yeah, you just don't care. So you can probably cut this, but the times it does go off is brilliant, and it's a good card to just side out. We run 1 Lightning Storm. We only run 1 since you never want to draw into multiple of this, like, ever. Plus, the following cards make you really only want to run 1 anyway. We have Raigeki and Harpies. I mean, these are just amazing cards, really. Do I need to say more? I mean, the Raigeki, people may question it. In fact, I had a few people question who runs Raigeki, but especially against Kashtira, which I suppose isn't as relevant, but not many people expect it. So it's fun to run, and it makes it so you can run just 1 Lightning Storm. And for the last card, it is a Change of Heart. This is brilliant. Obviously, it helps you OTK, massively helps you OTK. A fun play you can do is if you Kaiju Slumber and you want to get rid of their Kaiju, you can steal it with Change of Heart and then it will get popped. So if you don't have your Luna or you want to do some other plays, you can just do that, or just steal what's in the way. That's it for the main deck. Let me show you the extra deck. So first I'll show off these super poly targets. We have Garura and Muddragon. These are obviously just an amazing combo. Any monsters or any 2 monsters with the same attribute you need to get rid of, which is amazingly common. Love to see that happen. And for the others, we run a single Dracostapelia, one Fusion and Dark Monster, just a generically good card. Same with Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, two Dark Monsters, and then three Dark Monsters, Predaplant Triff. These, possibly this Triff, you can probably change. In this meta at the moment, you can probably change it to the Fossil Dude for Unchained, but so far I've had success with these, but these are flexible, these are not. So those are the Super Poly targets. Now we'll go into our XE's monsters. We run a Draglubion. Now this will let you go for an OTK with Numeron Dragon, which boosts up to 9,000 attack, and we'll be attaching Hope Harbinger in the odd chance that there's like 1 in 100 games you want to go into this instead. So it's there just in case, but it's really for 9,000 Numeron Dragon. You have to be very wary of any interruptions, since when you use this effect, you can't special summon anymore, and you have to only attack with the monster you summon. So be very wary. This is very fragile combo, but if you see an empty board and you have two level 8s, go for it. Now for our just level 8s that we can probably summon on the first turn if they make us go first, we have Dingirsu is the most important one. It's a monster protection effect, which is nice, but you can also send one to the grave and it doesn't pop, which is just really handy, especially for clearing boards if you're still having trouble. Sky Prison is interesting. It stops monsters being special summoned from the graveyard, and it gains attack for each monster, so it's in the grave, so it's good to use to go into Zeus. Speaking of going into Zeus, any single one of those level 8s, other than the Draglubion combo, you can make a 4-mat Zeus with. Do you want to know how? Pain Gainer. So Pain Gainer just literally uses any rank 8, 9, or 10 Dark Xyz monster, which is all of them, other than Numeron Dragon. Now, say you use the Dingirsu effect as well, you can also use the 7 Sins. So, which basically is the same thing, but it uses a rank 10 or 11 Dark Monster, which Pain Gainer is. We obviously run Zeus as well. So to show you what that looks like, we're going to imagine we've summoned Dingirsu on turn 2. Now, Dingirsu is probably the best one to use this with, since you can protect it if it gets potentially destroyed by battle or card effect. So, he'll have 2 materials. Say we use his effect here to protect after attacking. Now, in main phase 2, we can overlay it for Pain Gainer, then 7 Sins, and then Zeus. So that's a 4-mat Zeus, which often or not ends the game unless they kaiju or straight away negate it. Now, don't be too greedy with the Zeus. You can pop one in the standby phase if they still have monsters on the field, because you still have 2 more. The amount of times I've been really greedy with Zeus and just gotten punished for it is not great, so learn from my mistake. For our last 2 extra deck cards, we have Relinquished Anima. This is to use with our Eater of Millions, which is pretty much it. This is very replaceable, but the games it comes up in are... it just wins games because they don't really expect it. You're obviously running a bunch of level 8s and they expect the rank 8s. Will they ever expect this? Not really. And for our last extra deck monster, we have Nightmare Phoenix. The only reason this is here is to potentially pop a Floodgate and to have a link monster to link off your opponent's monster when you change of heart it. That's pretty much the only reason it's here. That's it for the main deck and the extra deck. Let me show you my side deck, the spiciest bit. So the main aim of this side deck is to counter when your opponent says, well, I'm going second. And also it gives you the option to play first in games 2 and 3, as I said earlier. So to start off with, we have 3 Macro Cosmos. This is just so powerful against so many different decks, and it barely hits yours, because your dangers still go off, and the only thing it hits is the Gizmek. So this is just great to have. Another one that barely affects your deck is Teekboo. Especially against some of the top decks at the moment, including Unchained, this Teekboo can be really, really devastating. Especially having a combo of the two. Going turn 1 sometimes is the right thing to do, especially when you have so much draw power like Pot of Desires and the Traders. You can pretty much see at least one of these when you go first. Now the next one, pretty self-explanatory. We have 3 Droll and Lockbird. This format, you need to have Droll and Lockbird in the main or in the side. So many decks lose, well, don't automatically lose, but they get really crippled when you use Droll and Lockbird, especially Pearly. Now this is falling out of favour at the moment, but we do have 3 Dimension Shifter. This is just, again, similar reasoning to the Macrocosmos, but you can also side this in if you're still going second. It barely hits us, and some decks it just absolutely destroys. Our last 3 are very questionable. These are cards for time. If you've noticed, this deck has a lot of grind game. You're going to be going for a long time if you manage to get to a simplified board state where you Kaiju Luna and just do that every turn. So, time cards are basically a must. These are very flexible and you can change these. In fact, I would. I would run 3 Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. This you can chain to any special summon when it's getting close to time and you'll gain life points. And that will be enough to win in game. See, I only have 1 copy of this, so I run 2 Firecracker, which is a card you might not have ever seen. You discard this and you deal 1,000 points of damage. That's it. It's a quick effect. Basically, one of the worst hand traps in the entire world. But it will win you in time. You can literally just run 1 time card, but this increases the consistency, especially when you're running Pot of Desires. You don't want to banish the only way you can win in time. So that is the deck list. Let me see you out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and you've made it this far, please do feel free to hit subscribe. New Yu-Gi-Oh videos each week. If you enjoyed the deck and played something similar, would you make any changes? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, happy dueling.